test driving the Honda Jazz. Now, I'm a family car reviewer, but not every family wants to be driving a large SUV. Plus, the Honda Jazz has features like an extra roomy boot that actually compares to small SUVs. I'm in a VTi-S, which is in the middle of a range of 3, and the Honda Jazz retails for between 15 to 20 grand, so it's a really good price bracket, which is why you will see families in small cars, especially if you've only got one child or if you're a single parent family. It's a viable option. How does it work in real life with real kids? I tried it with my own 2 for 7 days to find out. First things first is, how did the kids fit in the back? And look, my 2 are aged 5 and 7, so they had no problems fitting in here. You won't get a third child seat in here, but it really is quite roomy if you don't have kid seats in here. However, I wasn't really happy with how they fit. They're in these removable booster seats, which usually just sit into the car seats and are held down by the children's weight. But the Honda Jazz is quite narrow, and while I was driving, I looked in my rear vision mirror and both of my children were kind of slumped in towards the middle, right literally on each other. They looked really uncomfortable and quite unsafe. So while it's spacious enough and it did fit the children, it didn't quite work with their car seats. I'm not saying this will happen with every children's car seat, and you should definitely test yours before buying your car. Now, if I was single, Nedahl, and I was winging about town just picking up friends, all fitting in the car, I'd be perfectly fine. I'm 161 centimetres, I've got loads of room in here. It's actually really spacious. But Mum Nedahl, I wasn't thrilled. The Jazz has these clever magic seats in the back. They fold up and give you loads more cabin space to cart things around. It certainly looks good though. There's something really modern about this shape, and it's just so small and cute. The narrow frame really works design-wise, and single Nedahl would be loving this car, jumping in, zipping around town like she owned it. Mum Nedahl thinks it looks pretty cool too. The interiors are pretty basic, and for a car in this price bracket, I'm not surprised. This middle of the range model has fabric seats, which actually feel really good. I've got no complaints here. But the whole center console looks rather dated. You've got a small multimedia screen which doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is just newer technology that some of its other competitors like the Mazda will be getting later this year. You can plug in your phone to charge it, but it has to plug in up here, which just looks messy and not nice at all. It does have Bluetooth connectivity, so you'll be able to listen to your music, and there's also a sat nav. It's not particularly techy or fast, but it's there. The interior design just looks a few years old, and even single Nedahl thought it was a little bit dated. If you compare it to something like the Volkswagen Polo, that is so much more premium in terms of style. Still, it feels really comfortable in here. I have loads of leg and headroom. I had no issues with me driving it all week. My husband, who is 185 centimetres, felt a bit large in here, and he looked quite large in here. Still, he could fit. Impressively, boot space is really, really good. I was so surprised to open up the boot and see all of this space. You could fit a pram in here, and you can't even fit some prams in some small SUVs. So as far as boot space goes, this is winning. I fit 2 suitcases in here. Mum Nedahl is so happy with this boot space, and single Nedahl, she can fit in as many spare shoes as she likes. Storage is quite good in this car. There are 2 cup holders in the front, plus you'll get a 3rd cup holder up here, which is so rare and so fantastic. You won't even find this in a big car. You'll get a sizable center storage bin, which is, and again, rare for a car this size, plus a spot to pop your keys and a phone in the front, and a bottle holder in each door. Plus, the driving was pretty good in the Honda Jazz. I tested it over a week of torrential rain, and when I first got in, I felt quite vulnerable because the car is really small and it was raining, and I was like, is this safe? But of course it is safe. It drove perfectly fine, and by the end of the week, I was so used to it. It was great. There's a 1.5 litre engine which zips around town really speedily, takes off quickly, there's no heaviness, and it's just a really fun car to drive. The size also makes it really easy, especially for doing U-turns and fitting into parks around on the school run. Both mum Nedahl and single Nedahl love it. It has airbags for driver and front passenger, plus side curtain airbags that extend all the way to the back row, but you won't get the latest fancy safety technology like auto emergency braking, lane departure warnings, or blind spot monitoring. Plus, there are only top tether points for children's car seats, no ISOFIX points in this car, which is just a much more secure way of installing children's car seats. Fuel consumption is great. Honda says it uses 5.4 litres of fuel for every 100 Ks, so being a small car really helps in the fuel department. There are a few ways to look at the Honda Jazz. If you're single or you don't have kids, this is a great small car. Or if you're a one-parent family or you've only got one child, this is also a great car. It's got a huge boot space for such a tiny vehicle. But if you are a mum of two, like me, with an extra tall husband, this is not ideal. I had real issues with the way the kids were coming into the middle of the back seat. It just made me feel uncomfortable every time they got in the car. I gave it a family rating of 6 out of 10, just because it made me feel a little unsafe when the kids were in the back. My children also gave it a 6 because they were just uncomfortable. Single Nedahl gave it an 8 out of 10. She loved it. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel or click through to our website.